First of all, I'll put my apron on. Natural indigo, which I grow. Grows in many different parts of the world. So, apron, but not just a little tiny weeny apron, a good apron that covers you. But anyway, have pot holders when you're doing things with hot water. And also for certain things, because in nature, don't think everything is safe, because there's also plants that are not safe. So you need good gloves, for some plants to pick with your secateurs or whatever. You need gloves. So gloves for all sorts of things. So my hands at the moment are a bit dirty because I was picking stuff yesterday and I didn't say wear gloves if you want to keep beautiful long fingernails. Masks, very important, because not everything in nature is safe. Some things you really, when you are boiling and that, you need to have good ventilation and do it outside, so good mask. And if you've got long hair, tie your hair back, because you don't want to be doing things and bending over things and your hair is falling. Your hair can be a problem, so tie your hair right back. I'm really lucky because I've got short hair. So, and of course now I'd like to show you the masks. When I do anything with chemicals, I have a good mask with the right filters, and with other things I might just have an ordinary mask, but don't just use a little paper mask or something. Get the right mask for when you're doing the different things. Now when you're finished with your mask, don't just sort of think, right, I'm finished now, and you just hang it on a hook somewhere or a nail and think, I'll do this next time, because the filters will only last about 24 hours. So when you pick it up again 2 days later to do some more work, you will have to put new filters in because they've gone. So what I do is I get my mask and I put it in a plastic bag, and that saves my filters. I put it in a plastic bag or a very fine cotton bag. I save them, that way they're clean. Then I have old bags that I had bought rice in, and then I put that in you can make your own bags, but I just keep using whatever I have, and this was from an old, and then you hang it up. So you know that your safety mask and all that is really waiting for you to use it next time. And also ventilation. Don't do things in your kitchen. If it's best to do outside with good ventilation, or if you've got an area where you can use as your studio, have a hot plate or a little gas heat or something, and really be very, very aware of good ventilation, or open windows and doors. And don't, sometimes with certain things, ventilation going up, extenders or air things up, things like to, especially dyes and that, like to go that way. It sort of hangs here. It's heavier than the air. So when you actually have it going to ventilation up with extractors and that, it's actually going past your nose and you're breathing it up. So it's much better to have ventilation with doors and windows sort of open that way, so then things can escape that way and you're not breathing it up. Why is Deadly Nightshade called Deadly Nightshade? So I know when it's really, really, really black, apparently you can still eat it, but I just don't. But it makes beautiful inks and beautiful colors, but I boil it outside in the open air. Rhubarb leaves as oxalis and all those lovely weeds that are growing right now in springtime, I'll show them later on to you, is also oxalis. It's a beautiful, beautiful mordant, but you better boil it outside. The rhubarb leaves, the roots are wonderful because they'll keep giving you wonderful rhubarb to make rhubarb pies and things. So you don't eat the stems, but the leaves are poisonous, but it's oxalis and it's a beautiful mordant. You boil it for about half an hour, let it sit and put it in bottles and you've got your oxides and you've got your mordants. I would like to mention goggles and safety for your eyes. Your eyes are so important. Look after them. So when I'm pruning and cutting things, then for certain things I just use these goggles. I just put them over because they fit over my glasses. Because some things when you're pruning and cutting have white sap in them. Sometimes that can literally on your hands or really squirt out, and if it's in your eye, you'll know about it and it can really damage your eyes. If you really, also when I'm pruning or this and I really don't want any little twigs or anything jumping out from the thing and hurting my eyes, I really need the goggles that completely, absolutely cover half my face. So these are very important safety things as well. If you're picking and cutting little leaves like this, but when you're really walking in the bush or on your own property and pruning things, then put them in your pockets and take them with you. Pruning scissors, your gloves, your goggles, and you're safe. Because you never know what happens. Very unexpected things can happen, but you're safe. Also, when you do go for a walk and take your scissors and your secateurs and your glasses and your gloves, make sure you have long sleeves and gummy boots or good boots, long trousers, so no insects and things can come into and ticks and stuff like that, because it's all around us as well. So keep your skin, and perhaps sometimes I wear a hat with sort of flies can't come at me and different things. And if you come across a goanna or a snake or whatever is around you, you have got long boots on, covered up with your jeans or your trousers and long sleeves. Protect yourself, because also little animals and things can also be a danger, which are all living in nature and all living in trees. We respect them. It's their country, their land, but we don't want their things they can give to us as an illness. Now I would like to tell you about the materials and equipment you will need to start doing your natural dyeing. First of all, the different pots. This is an old cast iron pot because the minerals in this pot will color your dyes. Your different dyes. This is a stainless steel pot, so colors will stay absolutely as they are, neutral, because the stainless steel will not give off any minerals. This one here is a copper pot, and therefore some of the copper, some of the minerals of that copper pot will tend to give you the colors towards green, while this one will make the colors go grayer. They call it saddening the colors. This one will stay exactly right. So you need pots, but no aluminium, because it really works very strange. I don't use aluminium at all. And the final word about pots is don't use them in your kitchen. They are for your natural dyeing equipment. So now I would like to talk about the wooden spoons I sometimes use. And have your wooden spoons and write on your wooden spoons what you are using them for, because we don't want to contaminate something that's lovely and soft and sort of grey-green with a red spoon that I've dyed some other things which have gone red. So write on your spoons what you are stirring and keep it to those pots. I actually lay these spoons of whatever I'm dyeing with on my pot or near my pot. So that's the one I stir. And of course you don't do very much stirring with wool and silk, but we'll talk about that later. Also, when you have kitchen things that you don't really use anymore, and you use them in your studio or your place where you're doing the dyeing, put some tape around your spoons and put studio or dyes with it, so you don't get them mixed up with your kitchen spoons. So they are marked. Even when they get wet, don't worry, they will stay. So, and every now and then you put some new stuff on it, some new tape on it. Then you have your kitchen scales, just small digital scales. I have other scales, but these would be the easiest for you to get, because sometimes you have to weigh your fabric, then double it for whatever you're dyeing with, the leaves or something. So these are absolutely handy, and just get an old ice cream container and that's what you use to fill it up. Also a temperature gauge. These are just the cooking, I got in a cooking, where you buy everything for cooking, and you can put this into your pot because for some things the temperature is quite important. So, and there's a timer, because certain things will need to boil for 2 hours, and other things you might only need 10 minutes. And if it's 2 hours and then you think, oh, I'll just go upstairs and make a cup of tea and wash my hands and you might forget, and then all of a sudden, oh, that timer goes off, oh, you've got to go and turn it off. Or it'll change the color. Sometimes when things boil too long, it absolutely changes the color. Also, marking your whatever you're doing, as you're seeing, as you mark everything you do. So if I'm going to do something with this pot, I will put in the fabric, the materials that I'm using to color the fabric on here. I will put eucalyptus something or other on here, on the lid and on the pot, on the lid, on the pot, because sometimes if you've got 3 stainless steel pots going, you forget what lid was on when you're testing them. So mark, mark, mark. You'll think you'll remember, but believe me, I have not remembered many times. So, and now the scourers, I'm also going to use these because you can get stainless steel scourers and that I use, but these I use for my copper pots, and sometimes when I've finished I put it in my copper pot because these are copper and I'll get more minerals in there. These are new, and these I think I've used about 10 years, so they last forever, but the minerals keep coming off. And also so you need your tapes for your marking, a good marking pen, perhaps also writing things down. Now I'd like to talk to you about the pH. It's also very important to get pH papers, and personally it's very hard to get the pH paper from pool shops, but in your booklet we will give you all the information of where you can get, because at the moment now it's very hard to get it from chemists where I used to get it. So, but in your booklet you will get all those addresses, and advice will be in your booklet. pH is a very important part of natural dyeing. We will be showing this how to do it and give you a demonstration, because some dyes, some plants need more acidity and other ones like to have more alkaline, and with pH papers you can tell exactly what your water, even your own tap water in your house, in different suburbs and different parts of the world, they'll be different. And like madder likes a very low pH, but indigo likes a very high pH. Later on, I'll demonstrate in the next session. Record keeping, of course, is also very important. Write things, have a notebook, have your pencil or pen, and because you will not remember, you must keep what you have done, and 10 years later you will look at that book and think, that's what it was. Also a camera would be good, dye records, and that is all going to be in your downloadable, the booklet you can download. But it's very important. Record keeping is very, very important. The fabrics we're going to use. First of all, I would like to talk about protein fabrics, which is wool, silks, anything that was alive, walked, flew, is animal based, which is protein based, and it loves acid. But anything that was cottons, all the cottons is cellulose fiber, and it needs two completely different ways of dyeing and washing. Now, silk is very quickly washed with natural soaps, warm water, and just very easy. Now, silk can be, must be 500 different types of silks. So this is organza, this is a finer silk, and this is a heavier silk, and these I've made little skeins of wool, and but it's pure wool. No, if you have wool with synthetic or cotton and silk woven together, you will get two different colors. But I'd just like you to talk about now, preparing silk is easy, just warm water, pure soap, and a couple of rinses, and we're ready to dye. Wool, don't agitate it too much, you'll be felting your wool. So again, gently put it in a soap which is natural, with a pH of 7, because lots and lots of detergents and soaps have bleach in them. And later on I'll tell you the different soaps that I use. Actually, I'll tell you now. Velvet soap, Velvet, but that's Australian and it's made in Australia, and Lux Flakes, these are pure soaps. But again, this will be in your booklet. I would like to show you how to prepare cottons. Now this is calico cotton, and it's lovely, beautiful. Calico is lovely, but all linens and all cellulose fibers. So if it stood there by itself and grew nice and straight and didn't move, didn't fly, didn't walk, it's a cellulose fiber. Completely different to protein fibers. Now I'd just like to show you how I scour and wash cottons, linens, hemp and all that. I've been boiling this with soap, water and soda ash. There's still some pieces in here, but I would like to show you how much came out of that lovely new calico. And now look at the water that it's been boiled in for an hour. Look at the color of what's come out. It almost looks like a cup of tea. That's the dirt. And if you do not prepare your fabric properly, the dyes just won't go in there. So you really, with cottons, linens, hemp, anything cellulose, you really need to prepare it, boil it. The washing machine, even on the hot wash, just isn't good enough. It will not take everything out. It needs to be boiled. At this next session, I would like to explain to you how to prepare your dye material. For instance, I've done coffee here. This is the color. But what I did was, when the coffee, I put it on the, when I had the old coffee beans, I put them in some muslin and tied the coffee beans up in there, boiled them, put my silk in when it was cold, then brought it to the boil, and I boiled it about half an hour, let it cool in the water, and this is what I got. So I'm going to my cappuccino guy, and when I have a coffee, I'll say, here you are, you can put this in your pocket as your, so there's his coffee bit of silk. But for other preparations, for instance, I have picked some leaves and then I have prepared them, because sometimes it's all right to have the stems as well, but sometimes it's also very nice just to have the leaves. In further sessions, you'll see what just the leaves can actually do. So you can use it like that, or you can prepare it with just the leaves. And here I've taken the seeds of that tree, of this this is Eucalyptus cinerea, or silver dollar gum. These are the seeds, which also will give a slightly different color. And here are some of the stems that we had to trim the tree a bit, so I've kept the stems. And also, if you want to use bark and sticks and things, you really need to soak them for sometimes a couple of weeks, just to get the color out. With this one, soursop or oxalis, these are the stems and the leaves, and here are the flowers, and you pick them off separately, because this will give a different color to just the flowers. Now this is, people call it sometimes sweet and sour, but it is oxalis, and oxalis is a mordant. Mordant is something that sets the dye into the material. So little kids, they do eat these because it tastes sweet and sour, but a little bit too much and you might get sick, because it is a mordant, it is a chemical in there that sets the dye. So is the leaves of the rhubarb plant. It's also oxalis and sets dye. Now this is Haemodorum spicatum. See, and I've had the sticks here. Now I have soaked some of those and I'll show you a little bit later. So you soak them. Then here I have got some marigolds and of course dried them in the sun. But these marigolds with their little caps on them on the bottom, how they grow, will give me another type of yellow. And there's so many different yellows, different greens, different browns, and it's so beautiful to put them all together because they all blend, and especially if you perhaps put one piece of a browny yellow in between, it just lifts everything up. So there's not just a green or a yellow or a blue, there's so many different varieties of that. And your eye really needs to notice those slight different ones, and they go so beautifully together. And here's also the Coreopsis. So I've dried them very well, put them in glass jars and kept them. And also the hollyhocks, which give a lovely red dye. And so I have my dyes even when things are not growing and flowering, and I've dried them all. Also, when you're straining things, if you have an old strainer that's going rusty, it will change your color. So if you don't want to change your color, use the new one, or one that's not gone rusty, not a new one, but the one that is stainless steel and not gone rusty, that will not then change your color. If you would like to put your vegetation and your leaves and that into bags, then close them up, or your leaves or your seeds or whatever. Then when it's full, close them up, or use muslin and put your seeds, small things, whatever you have, into muslin, and then use it that way so your water keeps clean. But if you put it all in together, use the right sieve. Now in the next step, I will show you how to start. Now I'd like to show now, this is all cold. We are using Eucalyptus cinerea or silver dollar gum, and I'm going to, so it's all cold. I've just put it on my wood stove. So I'm going to put some wet silk and wet wool, wool and silk. Now I have got some leaves in there already. Put it in. Then I put some more leaves on top. Let it come to the boil. And then we'll see what happens, and I'll show you in a minute what will happen. Got clips and shibori type things, which is iron, in the stainless steel pot, because you will distort it. So I will put this one in my iron pot. Now iron, wool doesn't like iron very much, so a bit more leaves and the lid, and there's my, we will later on see what the iron will do. This is my copper pot. I will put some wool and some silk in the copper pot, and a bit more, and of course I can push it down because it's all cold. Never put wool or silk in boiling pots, because it was on an animal once, it grew on a sheep or a silkworm, and it has a memory, so it will go ooh, and it will felt. And so you never put it in boiling pots, you put it in cold pots and let it warm. And then when you have done a half an hour of boiling or an hour, depending on the plant, you then let it cool. So when it's cool and cold, then you take it out, and then it's absorbed all the colors as well. So usually I just boil it during the day and let it cool all night long, and the next morning I take it out. Be kind, it's got a memory. So there's my, now I would like to show you, because I did some before yesterday, took it out this morning, the difference of the, okay, this is the color that came out of this pot of stainless steel. This is the silk. I will undo it in a minute. This is the one from the copper pot. And this is the wool out of the iron pot. But I've only left these boiling for about half an hour. If I wanted this darker, I would just boil it a bit longer, or put more of my leaves in. Now of course the minerals in this iron pot and in this copper pot has changed the colors completely, as you can see. What a difference. Now I would like to show you, if you clamp things, or if anybody has ever done shibori, which is a type of very sophisticated tie-dyeing, but one day perhaps we can show how that's all done. This is my silk, which I tied up with leaves inside. And the silk has taken on the color a little bit differently. So, let's have a look what it's done while I was sleeping and it was getting cool. There's the leaves. And here is the color that the leaves gave me, and also made a little bit of color besides it. And the wonderful things of natural dyes is it never runs. It never runs into each other. It stays exactly where you've put things. So it's wonderful. I can now just rinse this. And of course, because it's the eucalyptus oil that's in the leaves, has set the dye, so you don't need a mordant to set it. And if I just had not put in leaves and just had put the silk in, this whole silk would be, of course, this color here. And I would also like to show my jumper that I'm wearing. Oh, and I talked about the different seasons and the different colors. So this, you can almost see the different seasons of when I picked this tree. One was in summer, after summer, and the other lighter one was after winter. So seasons, boiling, the amount, all makes a difference. This is all from this plant here, Eucalyptus cinerea or silver dollar gum, This is on satin silk, and this will we be doing later. It's eco boiling. Different results, and of course my jumper also from the different seasons, all from the one plant, and I've only used the leaves. I haven't even used the bark and the seeds. So from the one tree I can get perhaps 4 or 5 different colors, and the leaves that have already fallen on the ground and I've raked them up, they'll give another color as well.